There's a few reasons I wanted to do these videos. It's not really my thing. I'm not very good at it. Not yet, at least. Maybe one day I will be. But I'm not really doing it for... I try to keep my ego in check all the time. I don't expect many people to see it. I don't expect some huge following or anything like that. I don't want to be some kind of spiritual leader. I'm a spiritual guide, and I'm a spiritual guide for those who God sends me to. But I feel we are coming to a great change in this world, mainly in this country, in the United States, but in the world in general. But it's going to be hard times coming up. And I think that as times do get harder, people are starting to kind of open their eyes and see that there's got to be something more that drives them. Because all through, really through the 60s, maybe even the 50s, it's kind of been our selfish ideas of this American dream. You know, the started as the white picket fence and the 2.5 kids or whatever it was, and now it's just, you know, in the 80s it went through some big greed is good and acquire all you can, and now it is more of it's almost like a technological worship. You know, we're worshiping technology, and really, I mean, what would most of us do without technology? We would really be lost, completely lost. And, you know, people have lived, obviously, you know, all through human history, up until the last few decades, without any kind of advanced technology at all. And we can't go for an hour without our phone sometimes. It's pretty crazy, but we're getting to a point where we have to start looking to some higher power to get us through. Now, I'm a Christian. I found Jesus I really connected with Jesus when I was 13 in Bible camp, and I kind of felt that was the first real divine presence that I ever felt. And I've felt the presence of God a few times. And I believe that Jesus is a roadmap for the soul, the roadmap to God. That is why I choose Christianity over the other religions. And it's really not even the religions, the other teachings, because I include philosophies, I include, you know, New Age spirituality, all the different types of ideas in there. But organized religion scares a lot of people off, and I understand that. They focus too much on, you know, kind of the rules of law, which, you know, it's important. You have to have morality, you have to have all that stuff, but they don't teach you as much about connecting. So, you know, to me, wisdom, the difference between knowledge and wisdom is, knowledge is you can memorize a verse in the Bible. Wisdom is knowing the deeper meaning behind those words. Even if you don't memorize the exact words, you know the deeper meaning. You know what they are trying to convey in the Bible, or in any story or text, or even artwork. But it's kind of similar to when I was in school. I really didn't like most subjects except for, you know, writing and a few other things. But, you know, to me, history was the biggest letdown, because history taught in school, you memorize the dates. If you could memorize the dates, you'd ace the test. You memorized what happened on these dates and what this person did to this other person. You never got to a personal level behind any of those stories. And I remember the day that all changed for me was a day in college in Georgia Southern, and I had this history professor, and he was talking about Peter the Great, the Russian Tsar. And he was talking about just all these stories about how he wanted to modernize Russia and how he went to England with all his, court and everything and all his friends, and they ended up getting just wasted drunk and riding a little gardening cart down the hill over and over again in this Russian or in this English elite's property. It was, this professor conveyed a personal connection to Peter the Great instead of just some boring figure in history who did this and that. It really started to connect with me, and that's when I really got into history. And that is kind of the same thing with religion. Religion to me, I went to church all my life, and honestly, I knew a good bit of the stories and everything, and they just bored me for the most part. I can't really remember a time when I was like, wow, let's go read the story of Noah's Ark or, anything. Yes, the time that Jesus, I felt his presence the first time was at a Bible camp in Pennsylvania, and the camp counselor, who was just a teenager at the time too, he read the story of Jesus getting tortured and the immense pain and suffering that he went through just while getting to the cross and then being crucified, and then of course the absolute horrible suffering he had on the cross, and until he eventually died, and of course he rose again and everything. But that story, after hearing that, I had chills. I could feel it. It was the first time I'd really felt that divine spirit, and it was amazing. But I was still too young to kind of connect. I always believed in Jesus after that. I always, still to this day, but I never connected again because there wasn't any churches or anything who ever had any sort of conveyance of any Bible stories at all like they did in that camp. And kind of through my life, so many of the people I've met, they just had so many bad experiences. They had such strict religious parents, or they felt they were judged unfairly by the churches, or this and that. There was never any kind of effort to draw people into the church other than, hey, come and learn the Word of God. And that's not going to draw people in. I mean, that sounds great to somebody who already has experienced, a presence from God, but that's not going to draw somebody who hasn't had any kind of spiritual feelings really at all, except for maybe, a couple small ones that they just kind of ignored. But I think the big problem is that we have too many distractions now. We have too many. Darkness has infiltrated every aspect of the world, and through things like technology, everything is just a tool, and it can be used for good or bad. Everything like technology, and obviously can be used for great good, and it can be used for tremendous evil. Well, since we have all these distractions, since we have all these things that just take them, people don't even have a bored, dull moment anymore without getting right on their phone and playing a game or scrolling through Facebook or whatever social media they're going through. They can't even sit for a second without that. And hey, I'm not saying that I'm better than you, because I'm guilty of it too. If I'm standing in line waiting for something, I'll hop on that phone because I don't want to sit there. It's changed a little bit lately, but I'm still not to the point where I'm just, not reliant on that taking up my time. I check my phone way too much. I'm tempted by this wave too much. But since people, before the big technological boom, you know, computers and cell phones and all that stuff, people had time to sit and contemplate the deeper meanings in life, these deeper realities in life. And this contemplation is what is needed. You need, for me, it's solitude in nature. And if I'm out, you know, as I'm here by the river right now, if I'm here in solitude, that is my church. I can sit and I can think about these deeper meanings in life, and I can think about, you know, why these bad things happen, and all the, you know, kind of deeper questions that we have in our world. So the bottom line is, if I could give any advice to those who don't really have, you know, or just starting on kind of a spiritual self-discovery, I would say to find time to go into nature and to be alone, or to find your meditation. You know, meditation, or I mean that as like a ritual or meditation. Like I said, mine is going into the woods alone. Yours could be actually meditating, sitting there, you know, cross-legged and losing yourself for hours in your own thoughts. That's a great way to do it too. But also try to pick up on things that your mind focuses on that might seem insignificant, but for some reason a bird draws your eye, or a tree draws your attention. You know, kind of look up those things and kind of take it from there. You know, I started, you know, like I heard something about coyotes one time, and I went down the rabbit hole and just started looking into coyotes and different things about all these cool facts about them, how they will go in, the female coyote, when she gets pregnant, will go and howl, and if she doesn't hear a lot of howls back, then her litter will get bigger because she's trying to populate the area. If she hears a lot of howls, that means it's already overpopulated. Just maybe have one or two pups. I don't know how that does it, but it's one of those mysteries in life. But find anything that draws your attention, or maybe even just stray thoughts. If your mind keeps drifting to something, try to keep your mind, when you're walking around or doing whatever your ritual is, it should be in solitude, because anyone with you, even a pet with you, is going to take your attention. Try to be alone. And when something draws your attention, just don't let it go. Try to think of it. I mean, if it disappears, it disappears. But if it just kind of sticks with you, you know, you see this certain type of bird, go and kind of look for, you know, the spiritual significance of the bird, or, you know, kind of look up, you know, interesting facts about the bird, or, you know, I see a certain tree and, you know, like what type of tree it is, and, you know, try to identify it, or whatever you need to do. This is a way of starting to learn, teach yourself how to receive messages from God. And once you start focusing on these things that catch your attention, then you will start to get more profound things catching your attention, and you will start noticing, you know, just stranger things happening, but just kind of miraculous things happening around you. You know, you'll see a hawk fighting a bunch of other birds. You know, I one time walked upon this hawk who was fighting some blue jays, because the blue jays were trying to keep the hawk away from their nest. And then all of a sudden, all these other birds came in from out of nowhere and started helping the blue jays out, because they didn't want that hawk messing with their nest either. So they came and they pulled together as a bird community, and they started fighting him off, and the hawk just kept getting farther and farther away. And the one bird that finally drove the hawk away was this tiny little dart out of nowhere. And it was a little hummingbird, and I mean, he just came in like a kamikaze and just bam, right in his chest, and that hawk was out of there. It was one of the coolest things I've ever seen. And you'll see things like this all the time, and you'll see all these things that you never noticed because you were so focused on your phone, on your TV, and your computer, and all this other stuff. And if you have children, take them out into the woods and, you know, make a game out of it. You know, try to look for different things that, you know, try to have them find 4 different animals each, and you know, try to figure out, you know, trees, plants, whatever. You know, just make a game out of it. Have them learn to be comfortable in nature, and you can teach them, once you start learning that divine messages from God by being alone with just Him, because that's all that's with you when you're out there. It's just you and God. And once you learn that divine language, you can start passing it on to your children.